already in their mind, like seeds, are solutions, ideas, action steps, innovations, and you're trying to draw that out of them. So rather than telling people what to do, you're staying super curious and empowering them to tell you what they think we should do. You know, when you think about that, that's the way most ecosystems should run. You know, gone are the days of do what I said because I'm the boss.
Yeah, you're right.
That's some Jurassic shit.
Do you reckon there's a place, though, in the world for a little bit of do what I said, I'm the boss in certain circumstances?
100, yeah. There's a model called situational leadership, which is a fun one to Google. I'm always telling your fucking listeners to Google stuff.
Listen up and do some research.
Situational leadership's a great example. It's the idea that no one leadership style fits every person, right? So when you look at them all, it starts with things like delegating. Tell people exactly what they have to do. And if you think about it, in some industries, that's essential. Like think about the military or a hospital setting. You know, order, direct to command, the whole shit rests on that. You know, then you got coaching, then you got people who are delegating so that they are trusted with autonomy. Go ahead and do whatever, you know, you're going to crack without me. I'm here to support you if you need me, but if I don't hear from you, I'll assume you're crushing it.
So that could be more like sometimes sales-oriented roles.
That's it. Just go do it. You know?
Give them freedom to...
all that autonomy. If you need me, I'm here. Otherwise, go away. And then the fourth one, I can't remember the term, but it's basically working alongside them. So you brainstorm with them, come up ideas with them, but then roll up your sleeves, get down in the trenches, do the work alongside them. And if you think about it, situational leadership is the only real way to lead, because no two people are anything at all the same, you know, based on experience, value sets, and just requirements. You know, think about it this way. One person's micromanagement is another person's thanks for all your help.
Yeah, right.
So it's kind of cool to think broad like that.
I'm the one that's don't micromanage me.
Yeah, leave me. I'm the same dude. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
You know, I was talking to a mate about this last week. That's why I had to become a sole trader. You know, Transcend turned 10 this year.
Yeah, congrats.
But the main reason, thanks, legend. But the main reason I ended here was because I just kept getting fired, man. Like I just got fired.
Together,
I had so many times.
Yeah, Gladiators, you're currently listening to two people that have never been able to hold a job.
Until they became self-employed.
And we're good at this. Sorry, I'm having a chew of
enjoy it.
Of a protein bar, but yeah, I love that you are aware that there's no one way. And it's super important that I'm just going to ask you right here. A lot of people are finding it hard to find a groove in life, trying to find a lane that they may fit. It took me like 35 years.
Yes.
To find a lane that was fucking painful, as you know. We've done music, we play together. Like that's kind of our lane in the creative world that we both love.
Yep.
You're a facilitator. I'm a comedian. But do you think people always know that they're in the wrong thing, or do you think sometimes people got to go through the fire?
It's such a good question.
Yeah.
I think those 17 years of pain or whatever it is, I can't remember your timestamp, but I put it at about 17. You have to do all the different stuff. You have to, you know.
Right.
I talk a lot about strengths philosophy, and this is kind of a really cool thing to get into because it's about unlocking clues to your actual talents. What's the stuff that you're supposed to be doing? And one of the reasons why it's a cool thing to get into is because there's a big difference between a competency and a strength, right? A competency, just because you learn how to do something, even if you can do it efficiently and error-free, it doesn't mean it's a strength. If you end your day tired, depleted, disenchanted, pissed off, you know, it could be that even though you've become good at something, it doesn't mean that you're playing to your strengths.
That's a great bump. Give a round of applause for that one. And so you can't hear it, but it's just there's cheering going on over here. Yeah,
well, dude, but I'm glad you asked the question because for me, the whole going through the fire thing, people say to me, "Well, how the hell am I supposed to work out what my strengths are?" Then you got to do a whole bunch of different shit. You won't know unless you try it all, right? And the amount of people who I meet who are balls deep into their career and they realize they've built their whole career on a competency. Which is a mistake.
Real estate. That was real estate.
Well, dude, and you're not the first person, and that's not the only industry. You know, often it happens when you're little, someone says something to you, like they'll say, "Hey, Sash, you're really good at sales," you know, or you're great at speaking to people. You should do real estate. Or someone says, "Hey, man, you're good at numbers. Be an accountant. You're smart. Do engineering." And people download that shit as their reality, and then they build qualifications and a career around it, and they wonder why they're fucking miserable.
Yeah. This is a modern world thing, though, eh? Because if you didn't have the option in Macedonia, my father's got 75 sheep. That's it.
That's what you're doing.
Yep.
That's it, man.
Do you feel maybe fucking back then they didn't have the option to be kind of overly analytical or sad or depressed. The sheep, they don't have the option.
Just crack on. That's your gig.
Crack on,
That's
that's
what's
your
been
gig.
handed to you.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's got to be context driven.
There's other pressures then. You don't have fucking hot water, or you don't have protection. Yeah, you don't have government.
That's it, man.
Yeah.
And we're spoiled. That's the thing. We
are.
in our age are spoiled because if you want to have 50 careers by the time you're 30, you have that as an option.
Yeah.
Whereas your example of a Masso dude with sheep, it might have been raise these sheep or be dirt poor. So what are you going to choose?
That's right.
You know, so we're spoiled for choice, my friend.
Yeah, so there is a good and a bad side to being spoiled. Someone said, the lady they were speaking to about my son at school today, she was like, you don't have to give the kids too many options because it overwhelms them. So we wake them up and we like to say, do you remember you wanted to do Lego or you wanted to draw?
Yeah.
Which one do you want to do? She goes, if we give them an entire palette of things to choose, let's go to the park or watch a movie, it spins them out.
100.
Now, that's probably a little bit in our modern world for things to do to make money as well. You could be an Uber driver, you can open up a pizza shop, you can fucking work at ANZ. There's a lot of options.
You can have your fruit stand in Nicaragua.
So you reckon just go through, make mistakes for a while?
100, and that's the thing. Like comparing it to kids, I couldn't agree more. You don't want to give your kids too many options. You know, like it's the same way if you're trying to be a really gentle parent that lets the kid control everything that happens. If there's no boundaries at all for the kid in the household, even though you think you're doing that as a favor, the kid's ruling the roost, and from that place, the kid's anxious as shit because they think they're in charge of everything. You know, so I agree with kids. I think those binary choices are in their interest, and also letting them feel like they have a choice. You can do A or B, right?
Yep.
You know, it's like I remember when I was a kid, we'd say to our mum, I want Coca-Cola, and she'd say, you can have milk or water or nothing, right? So you got three options, and one of them is you can have fuck all. Right? But I think as we age and as the neocortex develops and you can do abstract thought and creative thinking and imagination, then I think it's something to celebrate, Sash. The fact that we are spoiled and we can have
Sash
50
is.
careers.
Don't know who Sash
Never met him.
Yeah.
We'll edit that out later.
I've said a few times, I was like, fuck that Sash, and I go, not sure who Sash is.
Who am I talking about? Never heard of him. It's a good problem. That's how I want to sort of stitch that one.
Yeah.
Having the option to have too many choices is a fantastic issue.
It is, yeah.
And spend some time working out what your strengths are. You know, I spent the first 17 years of my career
17 it took you.
bungling stuff, trying stuff on.
Yeah, and you're 10 years into this. Yeah,
That's
right.
it, man.
Good on you.
Because you tell yourself a story. Like one of the most naive stories I told myself was, because I'm a muso, because I'm creative, that must mean I'm supposed to work in marketing.
For sure.
And I worked in marketing and I hated it, man.
Yeah, there you
I was
go.
there for ages.
Yeah.
And then advertising, and I was kind of shit at that job too. I wasn't good at that job.
You could make it in music and hate that too.
That's it. How would you know? Unless you try. You don't know.
You end up having a great first album, and then the second album you're critically destroyed.
That's it.
And everyone goes, "This is a 2 out of 10 album. He sucks." You go
suck.
through like a depression for the next 5 years. You can't write anything.
That's it, man. One second you're Beckham, and then next second you're Beckham.
Yeah. All right, let's get to some questions here. Okay, there's our sound for the questions. All right, the first question we're going to jump in from someone this week. Sam has gone, how do you do your life in your 20s not drinking and handle that fear of missing out feeling to stay focused?
See, what I like about this question is that there's two things in there. The first one is a choice this person sounds like he's already made about how he thinks he's supposed to live his life. But then behind that, he's talking about the FOMO. So, you know, is it that you're not drinking because you've told yourself that you don't like alcohol or that's not in your interest or that you prefer not to? You know, or is it that you're not drinking because you've created some kind of noble sacrifice that sees you holding yourself back from fun, that whole short-term pain, long-term gain thing. So it's a fun one to slice up. You know, I would be getting more into the idea of being careful of not putting too much pressure on yourself. You know, I can't remember if we spoke about him last time, Vlad, but Albert Ellis, he's such a gun. He came up with rational emotive behavioral therapy, and he talks about the idea that we often awfulize ourselves by telling ourselves what we should and shouldn't be doing. I think we might have gone into this last time.
That's me. I awfulize a lot of
love
bad
doing
shit.
that.
Yeah, I love it.
No,
Flagellate myself. I love it.
So let's say this listener, he's grinding all week in his career, and then Saturday comes around and one of his mates says, let's go and have some beers. And if he shows up to the beer and he's got the frothy in his hand and he's going, I shouldn't be drinking this. Well, there's a decision that you've made built on a rule that you created for yourself that translates to being dissatisfied with your current reality. So
you're neither here nor there.
There's got to be a balance. Why are you off the terps? What is it you're trying to achieve? And what's this story that you're playing for yourself? Don't sink piss for a decade equals I'm rich. Like, what's the narrative that you've got rolling? And for me, man, especially when you're that young, these are the experiment years. So I wouldn't be giving myself such a hard time, and I'd think about trying to strike a balance.
Yeah, strike a balance. Yeah, put that on. All right, man. Yeah, I think that you can't stop, but this is our culture. Like we were talking about culture before. Our culture is a bit about going out and socializing. It's not so much at home, and there's bad stuff to that. There's good to it as well. But I think that the algorithm, a lot of people, influencers that are now tilting to the sober life, that's kind of becoming hip. Non-smoking, non-drinking, clean, no drugs, the whole thing, hyper-focused on production work. These guys are psychos, right? There's a lot of psychos out there. It is true. Like, they are self-centered egomaniacs, most of them, that want to grab God by the balls. That's the real truth of it.
It just sounds dangerous.
Yes.
This is just my opinion.
They want to go fucking hard.
That's it, man.
At everything. Like, you know, if he's going to have sex with a woman, he wants 600 women that year. He doesn't want to just have one. It's like they go too far. We get that, but it's correcting the other side that is like debaucherous, drugs, alcohol, and these guys are like watching that and they're going, no. I've got a great point. I can sell this.
I'm going to go the other way.
And it happens naturally with the world, man, with trends.
And for me, it just sounds like one of those dangerous decisions where there's a complete lack of balance. Like, you've gone binary on it. You've gone black or white. So rather than saying once a week I see some mates and have a couple of sherbets, I'm not trying to get fuck-eye, but I see my mates, I have a beer, I unwind, and that helps me reset to refocus and hit my goals and do my career. Because I tell you what often happens, man, and this is one of the oldest stories ever told, you'll have someone make all those sacrifices. They'll spend their whole 20s being good, putting their head down, trying to get the career, staying off the terps, and then they get to 30 or 35 and have a brain snap and start to regret what they should have been doing in the past. Why didn't I party when I had the chance? Why wasn't I cutting sick? Why didn't I get loose? And so they end up having this weird renaissance where they're cutting sick at 35 because they were too conservative in their youth. So
I've seen that, man. I've seen people get a sleeve tat at 55,
That's it.
come out, start doing coke in the toilets. Honestly. And there's like 20-year-old sons in the club with him, and you see
he's
like
there trying to
they turn into
up.
like a bikey looking guy. They go too hard because they got married at 25. Never went out. Obviously, you got kids. You don't go out very often.
That's it.
But then
man.
something happens and they go midlife crisis. I've seen
on the
that.
money.
It's a little sad to see, actually. I think
happens a lot.
Yeah, at 55, I'd want to be good at golf. Like, I'd want to be a leader to the kids.
You want to be 55 and saying, hey, when I was young and I had the chance to make some mistakes and experiment and do some stuff, I did that. And it's kind of in that wheelhouse of getting it out of your system. And I'm not saying that I think people should rage or cut sick or whatever.
No.
But I think there's a good chance that behaving in a way that's overly restrictive when you're really young, if you're taming some beast, because your listener said FOMO, so there's already something in him going, a part of me should be partying, but I'm not. Then that's going to come and get you.
Whatever.
It's going to get you. You don't do it now, and then at 35 you start doing it, and is that the
we
right
all
time?
went out, man, and all of that stuff. Now at older age, I look back and go, what an idiot. But if you put me back in 24-year-old shoes, and I was saying, like, just stay at home tonight. Everyone's out. You're trying to find a golf. You're going to go, that's crazy.
You're nuts.
Hindsight.
Nuts.
I'm going out. Hindsight 2020.
That's it, Baba.
All right, next one. Alan goes, my wife gets upset if she doesn't orgasm during sex. I think that's unreasonable. I mean, it's a personal question, Alan.
Is that the end of the question?
That's it. I mean, and then he said, and it, like his wife probably interrupted him. So she gets upset when she doesn't orgasm. I mean, Alan, I'd love to answer this myself, but we're gonna leave it to John.
Well, I'll take a pass and you can take a pass. The first thing I'll say is I'm not a sex therapist, so I can't pretend to be an authority here. But this is the thing. It's completely unreasonable in any relationship to be greedy sexually. So to play that excuse of, hey, I'm the man, that means I get to come, you can only come sometimes, then you're going to undo yourself very quickly. With this particular example, I'd be trying to zoom in a bit more on the technicality of it, right? So if it's about coming during sex, that's ambitious because a lot of dudes don't have that stamina or whatever, and it could be an angle thing or a whole bunch of shit that equals whether that happens or not. But if it's not about this specifically come during sex, if it's more, hey, I've got a partner and she's made her needs known and she would like to come every time we have sex, then you got to start thinking creatively, man. If you need to get some toys, is there some stuff missing from it? Because I don't think it's unreasonable for any woman to say, hey, you get to jizz every time. I'd like to come too, right? I'd be sort of trying to get around the mechanics of it and go, all right, well, I've heard that that's what you want. How can we make sure that that happens? And then obviously for any of the dudes listening, there's a sequence, isn't there? You need to make her come first and then you can come. Jesus.
That's the gentleman rule number one, It's the only place that you ever want to, come second. Otherwise you should aim for first place. But I agree with that, bro. Alan, put some work in, bro.
Or just, it's the technicality. Yeah. If it's the during sex thing, for my money, that might be unreasonable, right? So if it's supposed to happen mid-peno or whatevs, he might have to say, look, mechanically, logistically, I can't promise that every time, but maybe there's another way I can make you come first and then we can get into the pound.
Mid-peno.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. All right. All right, next one. All right, Emma, I'm just going to call her Emma. How do successful career women stop being such bosses or a boss and to get into a relationship and let a man lead?
Pause. If I've heard this question right, you didn't actually pause, did you? No. I saw you fucking around.
I was
with the
about
controls.
to,
no, so straight up to your lovely listener, it's already bullshit. If you are a successful career woman and that's something that you're proud of and that's where you put your identity and that's who you are, then don't for a millisecond think that you're supposed to change who you are to come across in a way that's more soft or passive in order to ensnare or entrap a man. Because if you do that, you got the wrong dude. You've hunted after the wrong asshole. You've hunted some insecure fuck who doesn't want to have a powerful woman. So to this listener, I would say, fuck that idea that you're going to change yourself in any fashion to lure in a man. You look for a man who's thrilled at you and your success. You look for a man who thinks you're a rock star and is proud of everything you've achieved for yourself. And you look for a man who gets to bask in the glow of your power. Don't be switching your shit around to try to lure someone in, not into it.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good answer, bro. Well, that's fucking short and sweet, really. So you don't have to really. That's kind of true, man. It would suck if you have to be, like, you kind of act to a certain degree when you go to work. Like, you act in life.
Sure.
But when you come home, you would prefer to act less.
Well, you know what? I'm glad we're going here. So there's a term that I picked up just a couple of years ago that I think is really cool. And it's the idea of adaptive authenticity, right? So some companies are really naive and they'll say to their staff, bring your one true self to work, right? Like as if there's just one version of you and you can come to work as the one you and be that you every day. But that's a lie. There are lots of yous, isn't there? There's the you that walks on stage. There's the you that does the pod with me. There's the you that hangs with me when we play in our band. There's the you that your mum knows.
There's a sauna Vlad.
There's the sauna Vlad, who I've met many a times. There's the should we be doing this Vlad? And then there's the Vlad your kids know. And so
not gay. Yeah.
No, but the point I guess I'm trying to make is it's adaptive authenticity, which is the version of me that I need to bring into this exchange that I believe is going to add the most value, and then you be that person. But the important point is version of me, right? So it's got to be you, right? So if this person we're talking about is a powerful career-focused woman and that's who they are, then you've got to be really careful not to edit or construct a version of yourself that isn't authentic, because then you reel someone in under false pretenses and now you're sort of playing a character in the relationship.
What are you going to say, though, if she... It's a deeper question now, but what do you say if she may be a powerful career woman, but that's not really her? And that's why she's come up with this question.
Great.
She's vulnerable. She's really probably putting on that hat, and she's brilliant at it. That thing that you're saying before about what did you call it when your
adaptive authenticity, or what was
the one at the start when we're talking about you can get a job and be not compliant, but competent.
Oh yeah, competent. Oh, so maybe it's a strength or a competency. That's where we were.
So she might be extremely competent at being a manager, a boss, or whatever in that world. I know plenty like that. but underneath, she wants to be slightly vulnerable in a relationship.
Well, that's fantastic then, because if that's the case, then we're not being a fake, are we? We're saying, when I talk about adaptive authenticity, at work I go in and I'm a strong boss bitch, and when I come home I'm soft. I come home and I'm soft and gentle. And if both of those are authentic versions of yourself, then that's fantastic. You know, I don't see anything wrong with that. We just got to be careful not to manufacture parts of our personality that aren't sincere, because then you're trying to maintain an illusion. You got this Wizard of Oz illusion going on, and that's only going to work at the top, and eventually the cracks will form and the whole thing falls over.
Yeah, foundations aren't strong. All right, we didn't do this one. Okay, this is good. 1 second. All right, Mosquito goes, what's the one silver bullet that can break down young men to be less self-absorbed? We've done this one, huh?
I don't think so. I like this.
No, we did the joy and okay. So again, what's the one silver bullet? There's no one silver bullet for anything. But what can men do that can break down? What can men do to be less self-absorbed?
You know, when I heard the question, the first thing I thought about was this Bob Dylan song where he says in the chorus, "You've got to serve somebody." You heard that song, Vlad? Talks about you've got to serve somebody.
Yeah, I have.
And it's such a beautiful breakthrough because, you know, when you study happiness and when you look at what creates overarching well-being, all of the research and in most religions and spirituality is you've got to find a way to serve something higher than yourself. Higher than yourself, right? So some people go straight to spirituality and they might have their own version of God and that's enough for them. Other people talk about pantheism and worshipping the universe. Some people do it way more granular. They say, hey, I've decided that my kids or my partner or my parents, there are other people around me that matter more than me, matter more than me. And so that, to me, that's the silver bullet, man. You got to work out, well, what's that thing that matters more to you than you? And focus a lot of your energy on that, you know, and that's a good way to pull.
So
your
you're
head
saying
out of
like
your
hedonism isn't the greatest way to fulfillment?
Well, it's a distracting thing, but you know, this guy's saying, well, what's the silver bullet? Or how do I make sure that it's not about me?
Less self-absorbed.
Just work out who it is. Are you plugging yourself into community? Is there a particular person? Is there something spiritual? What's that thing you've decided that matters more than you? And make sure you're investing a lot of your energy there. I'm not saying be Mother Teresa and put all your shit into it.
Yeah, fair enough.
But if you've got nothing like that at all, then it's a good reason to say, well, hang on, I need to do a bit more reflecting here. And it's also a great way to acknowledge that you might be making yourself miserable because you're too introspected, intro-focused.
Yeah, there's this thing that they've been talking about, psychologists across the board over the last couple of years, that there's a crisis of meaning in the world because things are quite easy.
Yeah.
Like us in Australia, possibly. You're sitting there, you're on your phone. You know, there's a lot of easy Uber Eats, safe.
Yeah.
You can work from home since COVID.
Yeah.
It's made people insular a lot more. A lot of people are afraid to go back to the workplace if they can work from home.
Yes.
They'd prefer, which is great as well because you go for a run or whatever and you can bat all day as well. But that's what most people are doing. True. Everyone's just batting now. So...
bat your edge off.
Yeah, whereas if you used to have to bat
day.
into an office in the CBA in the city, it's different. You know?
Bat yourself to sleep.
Yeah.
Well, there's only so many disabled toilets you can lock in the inside.
So, yeah, I agree, man. Like, serve something. I was saying this to my wife the other day. She was trying to analyze me, right? Which does my head in a little bit, but I don't mind it sometimes. When she analyzes the good in you. But she was like, oh, that's not your love language or some shit like that. Your life fulfillment now comes from being productive. That's what she said to me. She goes, you now don't like to be as hedonistic as you used to be. You like to go to work, to put effort in, to give something to people, right?
Yes.
Majority of the time it's for free, right?
Yeah.
Majority of the time. And then obviously I have to earn a living. So she goes, that's what you get your fulfillment from. Serving, giving, being a comedian, being a podcast or whatever I'm doing. I was like, yeah. And I go, 10 years ago, what used to fill my tank right then?
Yeah.
And she was like, play. You liked play. So, and I thought about it for a second, and truly, it wasn't play, but play was the escapism I used because I couldn't, or I didn't, or I couldn't find that fucking
That
part
thing.
to serve.
That's it.
So I feel it, like you feel it with drugs, with alcohol, with porn, with women. Men do it with fighting, with lying, with criminal activities, like just whatever, like with fear. We do it all. But then if you find something that you like, even
you
if
can lean into it.
Yeah, you can lean into it, and then you start to drop, say, some of the toxic people, I hate to use these phrases, but toxic people around you or toxic habits around you, you start to go, maybe I shouldn't be awake for 3 days because on fucking Wednesday,
I'm a hot mess.
Yeah, I'm a hot mess, and I got to go to Melbourne. I've got to do my pod or whatever. So there's more writing on it.
You've cracked it open. It's that whole thing where they say, if you can find a way to do something you love, then you never work a day in your life.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I think you've started to uncover.
Yep.
And it sounds like your missus is onto it because she's saying where you're putting your time and your energy now, it has more meaning to it. There's more meaning and purpose behind it.
Yeah.
And maybe that's part of it, man, because you've worked out if you follow the ripple from what you're doing, it goes out there. You've got like 35 or 40,000 people watching you on Instagram. You're selling out theaters. You know, there are people who are getting something from you. And so it's in there. Yes, sometimes it makes coin, but a lot of the times there's a ripple that's spreading out of you that's having a positive impact on other people. So it's beautiful, man. It's the science of meaning making. Why am I doing this?
The other day you said something great as well. We'll just continue on this. Like, people should follow JA_transcend, right, on Instagram. But you did these little videos which you got to get back into. I know you're busy, but you have to do. Just do 3 a week. But it was a little one where you're just like, if you're afraid, and this kind of goes on to this same question about how to be less self-absorbed, find something you can serve, like you said, and just start.
Just do it.
Just start. Like,
you got to do it, man. The amount of people holding themselves back, you know, because I think this is a great way to look at it. There's a difference between being imaginative and being creative, right? So think about it. Being imaginative is you got a bunch of cool ideas. Think about all those people that you meet who've got an app they're going to do and a business they're going to start and a product they're going to make. And some of these people naively refer to themselves as entrepreneurs. And it's like, but you're not doing anything. The difference between imaginative and creative is create it. You got to go and do it, right? And a lot of people don't understand the difference, which is why so many people talk so much shit, because the creativity part is actually throwing yourself in there and trying to make it happen. And man, you know as well as I do, because we've been making art since we were really little, sometimes it's shit. Sometimes you make garbage, right? And sometimes you make gold. Sometimes you make a turd and someone tells you it's a diamond. Sometimes you make what you know is a diamond and people tell you it's a piece of shit, right? But
it goes over their heads,
but the mistake people make is they don't start, man. They don't try. You know, they feel like they've got to have all the dominoes lined up or all the ducks in a row before they get going, and they end up completely paralyzing themselves, spinning their wheels and doing fuck all.
Do you think that's because they're a bit controlling about the outcome?
Well, I think it's fear failure. It's the whole failure thing. What if I do this and it doesn't work? You know, and that's why I think a lot of creative people, one of the reasons why they are creative is because they're comfortable with the failure. Sometimes it's going to be shit. You know? Think about this. Thomas Edison, one of his best quotes, "I haven't failed. I just found 10,000 ways that won't work."
Yeah, fantastic.
Imagine having that kind of brain in you.
That's everything is just a hurdle to
just keep trying stuff. It's gold.
All right, we're at 30 minutes, man. That was episode 2. Do you want to say something?
No, just thanks again for having me, and thanks for all the warm feedback. I get lots of DMs from your listeners. It's a pleasure to be involved, and I wish you guys all the best.
Thanks to the Vladios for tuning in. Episode 2 of MDMA. John Anthony was our guest again today. Check him out, JA_transcend on Instagram. You can find him. I'll put some posts up with him and tag him. And same on LinkedIn, JA Transcend.
Or just John Anthony Transcend.
John Anthony Transcend. You'll find him.
Thanks. Always a pleasure.
Thanks, guys. Love you. I've got to leave you. Right.